Hi there, folks. This is Jess Wilson. I am the course instructor of Operation of Tabletop Role-Playing Games as Social Emotional Learning Tools for Educators. This is an instructional video on how to write a case study analysis paper for this course in particular. So if you've just Googled how to write a case study paper, this probably isn't the video for you. Maybe it is. Who knows? Diving into a case study paper. When I first was given the opportunity to write one of these as an undergraduate student, I didn't know what I was doing. So I felt it was important to create this instructional video just so that I could show you a little more about what exactly I'm expecting out of this paper, or rather tell you. If you have any other questions after you're done watching this video, feel free to reach out to me at my number. Additionally, go ahead and email me at the email address found on the syllabus. So, when I was going through a case study analysis paper the first time, my professor at the time thought to tell us that it was more of a hypothetical situation. So when you're analyzing your case study in particular, and there are a few different case studies out there, so not everyone's is going to be the same, you want to be sure to think of it as if it were a real scenario. Begin by reading the whole case. So just take it in, kind of read it like a narrative, as if you were reading a book. Think of the realistic implications as you read it along. Just kind of ruminate on what you would do if you were in that teacher's perspective, or if you've been there before. Think about what you have done in the past. Then grab a pen and read it through again. I know that a lot of college professors say that you should read readings through twice, and most of us go. But this is the case where you definitely should. Get it, case? The importance of reading it a second time is that now read with meaning. Read for exactly what you need to find. So you need to identify some problems. You need to take notes on the environment, on the types of participants you're finding, about what happens in the case exactly. Try to refrain from bias. Don't come up with ideas of what happened based on your own thinking. Wait until you reach the end and see the conclusions written out. The writing of the actual paper then will take place. So in your own words, of course, you're going to summarize the case first as the background to your case study analysis. This is very, very small because I've already read all of your case studies. In fact, you know, in some cases, I might have been the one to write it. And this background is just to summarize what happens for your reader for the analysis portion. So discuss the very important factors that you took notes on: the environment, the participants, the conflict that occurred. Again, be very objective. Do not insert your own bias here. Next, you're going to do an identification section. This is where you're going to talk about the problems that might have occurred. And in our case, not in every case study, in our case, the problems should revolve around social and emotional learning. So now is the time to think back to that very, very first assignment that we all did together. The case observation sheet is the exact same idea of what you're doing here, where you are observing a child and trying to figure out the social and emotional needs of them and the deficits and the proponents of what they could do as demonstrated by your observation. Here it's the same exact thing. Identify where the student lacks, where they could improve. If it's a group of students, talk about each one individually. All of this is very important because it sets up your research and then your recommendation. Your research. Using some of the course sources, but also some of the outside sources that you find that relate to the problems that have occurred. Literally anything you want to find that will support it. You're going to bring up some research about social emotional learning that would be able to solve the problem. Don't yet say how it solves the problem, but discuss the setbacks and then how it could be solved by the research. For example, if you were to write your case study and you've noticed that the problem is that Jimmy, the student in the case study, most of the time won't be referred to by name, but maybe it is, it's a pseudonym here, has a problem with expressing his emotions to his peers, instead choosing to bite them. Very real problem. But take that problem and then bring up how the research has shown that talking to students about how particularly to express their emotions, how to say, I feel this way because, would address Jimmy's problem. That would be an example of how to go about wording your research. So bringing up some of the problems, how they could be fixed by the research, but don't yet dive straight into, and this is how we're going to do it. At the very end, small section, the recommendation portion is the part where you take all of those possible solutions that you came up with in the research area and you synthesize them and make them into a more compact little description of how the strategies you're going to use will help, how you will implement it. So timing on this, is it going to be a 2-day lesson, a 5-day lesson? Is it going to be 20 minutes? Are you going to do small group instruction, or is it going to be whole group instruction, individual instruction? You're going to very briefly give a recommendation of what could happen to the students here. This will lead into your final assignment, which is the intervention plan. The intervention plan that you need to write will be based on this case study. So this small recommendation portion is going to talk about the strategies that you want to use in that last intervention plan. To give you a small little tidbit, since this course is based on tabletop role-playing games, your recommendation should include tabletop role-playing games. How, though, you go about bringing like a tabletop role-playing game to the classroom is 100% up to you. Again, you can go through just a small one-on-one role-playing session with you and the student. You could make it a whole group thing and role play during a specific time in the day in the classroom. You can make it a small group instruction. It's based on your individual case study and then also on the research. That should be all. Don't be frightened by the scope of this assignment. Instead, think of it as real life practice, because this is what we do as teachers. We look for problems, we find the problems and identify them. Then we research how to help the problems and fix them. And then we set up an intervention plan to make sure that those strategies and that research that we found is put into place in order to better help those children. So I am looking forward to reading all of your case study analysis papers. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I am definitely available. Have a wonderful day.